Hello class, as we start Unit 5, we're going to be dealing with factoring. So we're going to need to think about when you study polynomials, okay? So first of all, when you deal with a polynomial, that means that you have many terms, okay? So when you think about a term is going to be a number and a variable put together with multiplication. So each term will be separated by a plus or minus sign. And another thing with polynomials is you want to start with your largest exponent and go down. That is called descending order. Now, you can have in a polynomial, you can have no variable on the bottom, because that's called a rational, or you can have no negative exponents. All of these exponents need to be positive with what we're dealing with right now. Okay, so a polynomial, when you're thinking about this, you're going to start with your highest exponent and you're going to go down and you're going to separate each term by a plus or minus. Now, sometimes when you're thinking about this, we're determining how many terms we have, okay? So if you have one term, if you have two terms, or three terms, and you can have more. Okay, so you can have more terms than three, but these terms have specific names. Okay, if you have one term, it's called a monomial. If you have two terms, it's called a binomial. If you have three terms, it's called a trinomial. So this would be one term, 2x squared. If I take that and put a plus or minus and put a minus 4x, now we have two terms because each term is separated by a plus or minus sign. Three terms would look like 2x squared minus 4x plus 3. So now I have three terms. So each term is going to be separated by a plus or minus sign, and they cannot be alike, okay? So that is after you simplify. So notice that this has no like terms that can be put together. So these are not alike, okay? Now, the exponent is what I was talking about and how it goes from your highest down. So this would start with your highest degree. Degree is another word for exponent, and it goes down to your constant number. So this would be in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So it starts with your highest exponent and then it goes downward. So first of all, we're going to think about operations with polynomials. So let's take this binomial and add a trinomial. we know that this is addition because of the add sign. Okay? When you add or subtract, you need to combine like terms. Do not add exponents. Okay, do not add exponents. Do not change exponents. Exponents stay the same when you are adding and subtracting. Exponents stay the same. So we're going to start with your highest exponent, which is a 2. That is called a quadratic. A quadratic has an exponent of a 2. So we're going to try to put all quadratics together. I don't see any more, so I'm going to put him in the front. Then I'm going to put together my x's. A degree or exponent of a 1 is called a linear. That is when you have an exponent of a 1. So 2x's plus 4x's gives us 6x's. Then I finish with the numbers. The numbers are called your constants. So 3 plus 2 would be 5. Okay, so it is called in directions simplify. When it says simplify, you want no parentheses and you combine all like terms. So when it says simplify, you want no parentheses and you combine all like terms. Because when we start talking about factoring, factoring is when you break things apart. Okay, now let's look at number 2. Number 2 is going to be a little bit different, so we're going to step up a little bit. We're going to have a 2x times a 3x plus 4 minus 5 times x plus 2. Okay, and we are still working with simplify. So we'll put a note to the side. When you multiply like bases, add exponents. So what that means is an x times an x is an x to the second, because you're going to add those. The base is the bottom. The exponent is the small number at the top. If there's not an exponent, there's an understood 1. So 2x times 3x would be 6x squared. 2x times 4 is 8x. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Negative 5 times 2 is negative 10. So now we can put together 8x minus 5x. So we bring down 6x squared. 8x minus 5x would give you 3x minus 10. And that would be your simplified answer. So again, when you add or subtract, you do not change the powers. When you multiply and you have the same base, you add exponents when you have like bases. Okay, let's try this one. Let's say that we have 3x minus 1 times 2x plus 5. Now, anytime you have one term, which is a monomial, you can distribute that. But if you have a binomial times another binomial, because there's no sign separating that, it's understood to be times, you're going to FOIL. So a bi times a bi means you're going to use the FOIL method. We did this in class the other day, but I'm going to review that again. So we have 3x times 2x. That would be your first terms. That would be 6x to the second. 3x times 5 would be 15x. That is your outside. -1 times 2x is -2x. And the last would be -1 times 5, which is -5. Now we have these like terms we can put together. So that would be 6x squared plus 13x minus 5. Now, sometimes you will see the problem written as a quantity squared. So you might have 3x plus 2 to the second power. So what that means is you multiply that to itself. So now we're going to FOIL. That would be 9x to the second, 6x, 6x, and 4. So that gives you 9x squared plus 12x plus 4. Now, make sure you go back through if you're struggling with the operations with your polynomials, okay? Because it's important that you know those, because the better you are with that, the better you will be with factoring. And we're going to finish up, and for your assignment today, you'll be doing some operations with polynomials. So we're going to finish up with one that would be considered very difficult. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to write this to the third power. And I'm going to use low numbers for this one because that way, hopefully, you'll see it. And then I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to do x plus 4. Okay. Now, whenever you see things like this, you want to first get rid of your exponents. So what you're going to have to do here is you have to write this out 3 times with multiplication. And then we have this minus here on the right that I'm just going to copy over. Now, what we're going to do is take 2 at a time and FOIL that. So if you want to pause and see if you've gotten the full down, I'm just going to draw that little smiley face. So we get x to the second plus 1x plus 1x plus 1. I'm going to go ahead and put that together as x to the second plus 2x plus 1. And now I'm going to have to multiply that to x plus 1. I'm just going to leave that part to the right. Now, when you get to this type, guys, this is not a bi to a bi. This is a tri times a bi. So what you have to do with this is you have to distribute each part. You would not FOIL with this type of problem. So what you do with this when it's not a bi to a bi is you take each term, remember the terms are separated by pluses or minuses, and you distribute it. So an x squared times an x is going to be an x to the third. An x squared times a 1 is an x to the second. Then you go to your second term in the trinomial, and 2x times x is 2x to the second. 2x times 1 is 2x. And then you go to your last term, which is a 1. 1 times x is 1x, and 1 times 1 is 1. So remember what we talked about when we just started. We're going to start with your highest exponent. So this time it's a 3. Remember, that's called a cubic. Then we put together our quadratics. 1x squared plus 2x squared is 3x squared. Then we have our linear. 2x plus 1x is 3x. And then 1. Now, all that came from x plus 1 to the third. We still have to subtract the x plus 4. So with the subtraction, there's like a -1 there. So it will distribute to both of those terms and change the signs. So we have x to the third plus 3x to the second plus 3x plus 1. Then I have a minus x and a minus 4. So now we would have x cubed, 3x to the second, 3x minus 1x will give us a 2x. And then 1 take away 4 would be -3. Okay, so this one is called the cubic. This one is called the quadratic. That one is the linear. And the last one is the constant. And remember, it's based on degree, which is your exponent. That has a degree of 3. That has a degree of 2. That has a degree of 1. This one has a degree of 0. And when you count your terms, it is a 4-term polynomial. And when you classify those, you classify it with your highest degree. So you would say it's a 4-term polynomial with degree of 3. So this right here would be the simplified answer, and sometimes it will ask you to classify that. So it's a 4-term polynomial with degree of 3. So make sure you practice your assignment with your operations of polynomials.